Hare Krishna, everyone, and welcome back once again to our lecture series on the glories of our most beloved Sri Vrindavan Dham. Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Pashtaya Bhutale Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namane Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pacharine Nirvishesha Shunyavade Paschatya Deshatarane. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. So once again, we're continuing with our mini-series on stimulation for ecstatic love, and this will be part 112. 112. It will tie into our recent discussions on the fourth quality of Krishna, as you remember, that distinguishes him from Lord Narayan, namely Rupa Madhuri, his extraordinary beauty. As some of you may remember, Srila Prabhupada gave this same title, Stimulations for Ecstatic Love, to chapter 26 of his Nectar of Devotion. Nectar of Devotion, of course, is a summary study of Srila Rupa Goswami's Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. And I researched the original Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu this morning and found the part where Sri Rupa Goswami writes about stimulation for ecstatic love. It is Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu 2.1.301. The verse is Udi Panas tute prokta bhavam udi prayanti ye te tu Shri Krishna chandrasa gunas chetasa prasadanam. Quote, those things which awaken ecstatic love are called Udi Pana. Udipana. Mainly, this awakening is made possible by the qualities and activities of Krishna, as well as by his mode of decoration and the way his hair is arranged. So, for several months now, we've been discussing various Udi Panas, those things about Krishna that stimulate love for him in the hearts of his devotees. But one which we haven't discussed is mentioned in the verse I just quoted, and that is Krishna's hair. Krishna's hair. So I thought that would be the perfect Udipana to discuss today. And I was thinking, what might be the result of discussing this or any of the many Udipanas we've been discussing? And that question was answered by Srila Prabhupada in a lecture I was listening to the other day, Srimad Bhagavatam 3.28.20. Prabhupada gave this lecture during a visit to Nairobi, Kenya, sometime in the 1970s. He said, and I quote him, here are Krishna's feet. There is his hand. His feet are marked with symptoms. His hand is like this, his flute is like this, his hair is like this. Study everything minutely. That is meditation, and it will help you to think of Krishna constantly. And that will be trance, samadhi, actual samadhi. It is practical. It is not to be imaginary, unquote. So for those of you familiar with the passing of Bhishma Dev in the presence of Lord Krishna as described in Srimad Bhagavatam, first canto, chapter 34, you know that this was the mood of Bhishma Dev on his deathbed, as he was fully absorbed in samadhi, in meditating on the Udipanas of Krishna, which resulted, of course, in his experiencing ecstatic symptoms. And one of those Udipanas mentioned was Krishna's hair in that verse. The actual verse is as follows. On the battlefield, where Sri Krishna attended Arjuna out of friendship, the flowing hair of Lord Krishna turned ashen due to the dust raised by the hooves of the horses. And because of his labor, beads of sweat wetted his face. All these decorations, intensified by the wounds on his skin and dealt by my sharp arrows, Bhishma Dev speaking, were enjoyed by him. Let my mind thus go unto Sri Krishna. Famous verse. So Krishna being forever appreciated and loved for his hair, He's known as Keshava. Keshava. In his book Jaiva Dharma, in the appendix, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur gives the definition of Keshava. He writes, another meaning of Kesha is hair. When this is combined with the verbal root va, to wear or possess, Keshava means one who has beautiful long hair. And Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur has given two further explanations or definitions of the name Keshava I came across. He writes, Keshan Vayate Samaskaro Titi Keshava. It's really interesting. When Kesha is combined with the verbal root ve, to braid, Keshava means, listen to this, the one who expertly braids and decorates the hair of his beloved Srimati Radharani. Wow. So now you could see we get a first glimpse of Krishna's hair in Ananda Vrindavan Champu by Kavi Karnapur. Therein he writes that soon after Krishna's birth, quote, the ladies of Vrindavan saw baby Krishna like a blossoming flower, made of the best of blue sapphires, or like a newly unfurled leaf of a tamal tree. His presence filled the maternity room with good fortune, and although a mere baby, Krishna had a head full of curly hair. Krishna had a head full of curly hair. Wow. He's born like that. Then, or he appeared like that. Then in Nectar of Devotion, chapter 43, Srila Prabhupada reveals the color of Krishna's hair when he was a young boy. He writes, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, whose bodily complexion is just like a bluish, new-grown lotus flower, whose body is very delicate, and whose lotus eyes are surrounded by scattered hair as black as bees, was walking on the streets of Vrindavan when Mother Yasoda, the beloved wife of Nanda Maharaj, saw him. So there we hear the color. Black like a black bee, a bumblebee. Now, further research reveals in Krishna book, chapter 8, we hear more about Krishna's hair when he was a little bit older. Quote, up until that time, neither Balaram nor Krishna had undergone the hair-cutting ceremony. Therefore, their hair was always clustered like crow's feathers. Wow. Clustered like crow's feathers. They were always playing hide and seek with their cowherd friends, or jumping or fighting with them. So clustered like crow's feathers. Now, often when one grows older, his or her hair turns gray, but not Krishna. In his Srimad Bhagavatam purport to Srimad Bhagavatam 2.7.26, Srila Prabhupada writes, in the Vishnu Purana, as well as the Mahabharata, both Krishna and Baladev are mentioned as having beautiful black hair, even in their advanced age. Lord Krishna is Sita Krishna Keshaha, one who is observed always with beautiful black hair. Of course, we know also that Krishna, he does have some white hairs on his body, but not on his head. Srimad Bhagavatam 3:28-14 states about Krishna. His loins are covered by a shining cloth, yellowish like the filaments of a lotus. On his breast he bears the mark of Srivatsa, a curl of white hair. The brilliant Kaustubha gem is suspended from his neck. But there we hear a curl of white hair on his chest. But again, the hair on his head is a beautiful black color that, Prabhupada writes elsewhere, always attracts the attention of his devotees. And in Sri Gopal Champu, Srila Jiva Goswami writes in volume 1, chapter 17, Krishna's return from the forest at sunset is described in these words. When Krishna returns to Braj, the gopis lovingly gaze at the lotus flower of his face, which is encircled by the black bees of his curly hair, and covered by dust raised by the cow's hooves. When the black bees of the gopis' eyes send glances to meet the lotus flower of Krishna's face, the gopis at once find themselves caught in the trap Kamadev has set for them. So this black hair is attracts the attention of his devotees. However, it's interesting that while in the Gurukul of Sandipani Muni, one of the things Krishna and Balaram learned to do was to dye hair in different colors. We're talking about when they're in the Gurukul. They learned this art of dyeing hair in different colors, although I've never read they dye their own hair like that, but they learned this art of dyeing hair in different colors. That we read in Krishna book, chapter 45, that in the Gurukul, they learned practical psychology, how to influence another's mind, and thus induce another to act according to one's own desire. Sometimes this is called hypnotism. They also learned how to wash hair, dye it in different colors, and curl it in different ways. And they learned the art of telling what is written in someone's book. So there's the authorized quote that they learned to dye hair. Of course, it was generally Mother Yasoda who would dress Krishna's hair each day. But sometimes I was reading, his cowherd boyfriends would also do that. In fact, Shastra describes that once in the eastern corner of a grove called Chote Baitain, Krishna and Balaram were resting there while tending their cows. And after a while, they played games as the cows grazed peacefully. And as usual, the cowherd boys were so engrossed in playing that their limbs, described their clothes and hair, were all coated with dust. And it's interesting, noticing this, Balaram knew that Mother Yasoda would be angry with him if he brought Krishna home in that state. So he guided all the boys to a nearby place called Kundala Kund, where he, Krishna, and the other boys bathed. And after drying themselves off, the cowherd boys, they decorated Krishna's hair with feathers and flowers that they had collected in the grove. And when they were finally presentable again, they started on their journey home. On another occasion, I was reading, hair again played an important part of a pastime in the grove of Chote Baitain, and this time with Srimati Radharani. It's described one time, attracted by the cooling shade and peaceful atmosphere of that particular place, Radharani stopped there with her friends. And after walking through the garden there, she sat beside that beautiful lake we mentioned. And absorbed in thoughts of the loving exchanges that she and Krishna had shared in that grove, her maidservants, the gopis, quickly collected flowers and decorated her hair. And since the waters of that lake, as well as the surrounding flower garden, had rendered service to her hair, Kuntala, Kuntala, of both Radha and Krishna actually, the lake became known as Kuntala Kunda. That's where we get the name for that lake. In Sanskrit, actually I looked up, Kuntala means locks of hair. Isn't that amazing? So we'll finish today with the Asachap poet, one of the 8 poets of Balabhacharya, Govinda Swami's description of 2 gopis discussing Krishna's beauty. It's really nice. He begins, O Saki, have you seen the beauty of the darling of Vrindavan today? The other gopi replied, O my dear friend, please reveal to me his, meaning Krishna's, ever-fresh beauty. The first gopi says, His hairs embrace each other and are bound in a beautiful Braj Ratan Mukut. His hair is dressed like a mukut, a beautiful Braj Ratan Mukut, which is tilted towards his broad forehead. His eyes, shooting sidelong glances, are red at the end. Carefully hidden in that redness, our love resides in those eyes. His eyebrows are like the bows of Cupid, which shoot arrows to pierce the hearts of the Braja Gopikas. The other gopi, who was very innocent, asked, "Are those arrows real?" Her friend smiled and said, "Those arrows of love are very mystical, like the wind, like a desire tree, like a yati, a sannyasi, and a yogi, and the vines and trees of Braj." Humbly holding the hands of her friend, the other gopis said, "Only by the mercy and desires of gopis like you is the hidden beauty of Krishna revealed." The poet Govinda says, "When will that day come when I will behold that beautiful face of Gopal, the cowherd boy of Braja's forest?" Beautiful way to end the day. Hare Krishna. So thank you so much, Prabhus. Actually, I've done quite a lot of research the last couple of weeks, and we do have more classes on Krishna's hair. It's a prime subject matter in Vrindavan, so we'll continue next Friday. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Shri Shri Gaur Nitai ki, Shri Shri Krishna Balaram ki, Shri Shri Radha Sundar ki, Vrindavaneshwari Shrimati Radharani ki, Mayapur Dham ki, Gaur Nitai ki, Shri Krishna Sankirtan Yagya ki, Nitai Gopimanandi, Jai Jai Sri Sri Radhe Shyam.